Red Dead Redemption 2 is much like any other Rockstar experience, where you end up with a lot of money and weaponry by the end of the game, when you're already tanked up and don't really need it, but at the start of the game, coming across some much needed funds and a good gun can actually be surprisingly difficult. And because of that, I thought it would be a good idea to make up a guide looking at what I consider to be the best pistols and revolvers in the game, and how you can add them to your arsenal without ever dropping a dime. If you do find the video useful, please give it a helping hand and tap the thumbs up button down below. The first weapon I'm going to be checking out is one that I get asked about a lot, and that's the Quick Draw Master right here, the M1899, a pistol that's exclusive to story mode and one that's very close to my heart. Ever since it dropped in a DLC about a year after Red Dead Redemption 2 was originally released, it's been one of, if not my favourite weapon in the entire game. Not only is it stunning and has a vast array of customization options available, but this thing absolutely shreds as well. With just about the fastest fire rates of any weapon currently available, it almost feels like you're using a machine gun when you're dual wielding these bad boys. If you're not too worried about your ammo count, you don't even really have to worry about headshots in most situations. Just hip fire the enemy and blast him into another stratosphere. Rampaging with these pistols is just about the best fun you can have with your pants still on. I highly recommend checking them out if you haven't had the pleasure already. Under normal circumstances, you would have to purchase the M1899 from the Saint Denis gunsmith from Chapter 4 onwards, where it comes in for a tidy sum of $315, making it one of the most expensive sidearms available. However, don't fret if you're down on funds, I've got a couple of ways that you can get them for nothing. The first method involves the Cattle Rustling with Uncle Side mission in Chapter 4, which becomes available after completing Angelo Bronte A Man of Honor, where you retrieve Jack from Angelo Bronte's mansion in Saint Denis. You can find it on the outskirts of the Shady Belle gang camp, and it's only available at night, usually between midnight and 5 AM. It can be a little bit tricky to get it to spawn sometimes though, so the best thing to do if you can't see it is to set up a camp away from your main base, advance time by 24 hours, and then check again to see if it's there, then just rinse and repeat until you do see it. When this little icon is up on your map, you know it's ready to go, but do not start it right away. Save your game first, as that's going to be important for later. Once your game's been saved, you can start the mission and make your way to Hill Haven Ranch to get things underway. If you're not familiar with the mission, it simply requires you to either scare or kill the cattle rustlers so that you can take the cattle instead. For our purposes though, you don't want to scare them off, you will need to kill them. Any old way will do, nothing fancy required here, just make sure they're both taken care of. Once they are, make your way over to their bodies and have a look on the ground that's surrounding them. The guy that was standing off to the side will have dropped a Springfield rifle, but the guy that was trying to pick the lock on the gate, however, will have dropped one of two pistols. One of which is the M1899, as you can see here, and that's definitely the one that I recommend you go for. Not only is it my preferred gun, but it's a hell of a lot more expensive than the other gun that he might drop, which is a Volcanic Pistol. And that's a really good weapon, don't get me wrong, but I'll be discussing the Volcanic Pistol later on in the video and showing you another method of getting one free just in the very next chapter, so I highly recommend that you go with the M1899 for now. It's nothing but pure luck as to which gun will spawn, and that's why I told you to save the game before starting the mission, because it can't be repeated. If the M1899 doesn't spawn, simply reload your game and try again. For a reference, this took me 3 tries before it popped up, so just keep going until you get the right one. The next method is a little bit simpler, however, according to my research, it will only work if you already own one of the M1899s already, which is why I showed you the other method first. But hey, this still potentially saves a cool $350, so I thought I should definitely include it in the video. Make your way over to the Angelo Bronte mansion in Saint Denis. You probably remember it from various missions, but if not, you can find it here. Then what you're going to want to do is sneak around the back and jump over the fence. Keep things pretty quiet to start with so you can get your bearings, but you'll likely be spotted eventually. At that point, you can just let loose and take out whoever's in your immediate vicinity. Once you've done that, it's simply a matter of searching around on the ground until you see one of the dropped guards that was carrying an M1899. And then, all you have to do is tap the corresponding button, and now it's my gun, baby. Hells yeah. By the time you're done, you've probably got a wanted level with the cops rolling in from a distance, so it's best to make a timely escape out the same way that you came in, and away you go. Easy peasy. You might get a bit of a bounty, but as long as you don't get embroiled in a big shootout with the cops, it shouldn't hurt your back pocket too much. Okay, so the next gun we're going to be looking at is the Volcanic Pistol, which we were discussing earlier. It's an absolute beast of a weapon. While it might have a slow fire rate, the sheer damage this thing can do, especially when dual wielding, is absolutely insane. Normally it can be purchased from the gunsmith for $135, or might even already be free if you own the Ultimate Edition of the game. But if you're just running the standard copy and see a price here, don't drop your coin just yet, because you can definitely get this one without ever paying a cent. If you've been following this guide, I've already shown you one method of how to get the Volcanic Pistol, but because it came at the cost of not being able to get a more expensive gun, you'd probably grab that instead. Don't worry though, I've got another super easy way that you can get your hands on one. During Chapter 5, you get stranded on an island called Guama, left with nothing but a double action revolver and the torn clothes on your back. However, even to this day, some people still don't know that you can collect and use the Volcanic Pistol instead, which will stay with you even when you return to the mainland. After you've arrived at the main campsite for the first time, all you need to do is make your way over to the table on the side here, where you can see a couple of little gun icons on your minimap. One of which will be the double barrel shotgun, and the other is of course the Volcanic Pistol. Definitely grab it, because not only is free always nice, but it's actually a very useful addition for the Guama missions where ammo is in short supply. Next sidearm on the agenda is the well-known Schofield Revolver, another very powerful gun that is honestly a lot of fun to use. It's one of those guns I actually don't use for missions that often, but it's one of my go-tos when I'm going on a rampage. It blasts away enemies with a good amount of force, and it's just got such a solid feel to it. Normally purchasable from just about any gunsmith for the price of $75, it also comes with a pretty good selection of modifications that you can make, but don't go spending that money just yet. There's a couple of methods of getting this one for nothing. The first involves a robbery side mission in Valentine, which becomes available early in Chapter 2. In order to get it kicked off, you will need to come over to my location on the map. Once you've arrived, you'll see a suspicious looking door that seems to back onto one of the shops. There's a little random encounter that can occur here that points you in the right direction, but luckily you don't actually need that to get it to work. Once you've knocked on the door like I just did, you'll be promptly told to go away, and at that point you just need to make your way around to the shop front of the medical centre on the main strip of Valentine. From there, just head inside to have a friendly little chat with the shopkeeper. Once you trigger him, if you've done everything right up until now, you'll see an option to rob the back room. After that, it's all pretty straightforward. He'll lead you in the back where there's a shady side business going on. They'll let you in thinking that it's the owner, and then all you need to do is blast them to the heavens. When the enemies are no longer an issue, you can make your way over to the table where you'll find a lockbox, and inside you'll see a new nice addition to your arsenal, the Schofield Revolver, totally free of charge. However, the free part is assuming you don't kill too many cops during your escape and rack up a big bounty. But if you have a stick of dynamite, you can collect some extra money from the safe in the wall, which should cover you pretty nicely one way or another. The second method for the Schofield Revolver comes later on in the game in the final installment of the Gunslinger Stranger mission called Noblest of Men and a Woman. This is the one where Jim Boy Calloway challenges Arthur to a duel and of course inevitably loses. When he dies, he drops a revolver, just like all of the other legendary gunslingers, only this one happens to be a very nicely decorated variant of the Schofield. Technically speaking, it's got lower stats than the regular Schofield, much like all of the other gunslinger weapons, but it's only by a small margin, and combine it with the one that you get from Valentine and you'll be dual wielding these bad boys without having spent a penny. Last one on the list was actually one of my favourite guns for the longest time, until the M1899 came along, that is. Personally, I prefer that, but the Mauser that I'm using now definitely has its perks as well. What it lacks in impact, it makes up for with fire rate. This thing can unload its clip in a matter of seconds. It really is very, very quick. Some may even prefer it to the M1899. They are somewhat comparable, and I mean you could always dual wield with one of each if you so desired. Normally it's purchasable from the Saint Denis Gunsmith for $250, but it doesn't unlock until Chapter 6, which is actually quite a bummer. Fortunately though, there is a couple of ways that you can get it early and free of charge. If you're okay with taking a bit of a hit on the stats like I mentioned earlier with Calloway's Revolver, you can get a Mauser as early as Chapter 2 by completing the first string of the legendary Gunslinger Stranger missions, specifically the Billy Midnight encounter, where you chase him down on a moving train and eventually engage in a duel. Once he hits the floor, make sure you go over and grab his unique Mauser Pistol before jumping off the train and making your escape. It's a really pretty gun, and honestly, it can't be beat this early on in the game. Another method for acquiring a free Mauser is during the assault on Angelo Bronte's mansion in the Chapter 4 mission, Revenge is a Dish Best Eaten. After working your way through the enemies in the garden and on the first floor of the mansion, you will find yourself upstairs looking for Angelo Bronte himself. When you eventually find him through process of elimination, he will quickly throw his gun at you after it jams as a last-ditch effort of getting away, but of course it's in vain as John cleans his clock. At that point, do not pick up his body. That will trigger the next part of the mission and cops will be all over you. Before you pick him up, make sure you walk over to where he threw the gun on the floor and you'll find a tasty new Mauser that you can team up with your Billy Midnight pistol for a bit of dual-wield goodness. As always in this situation, don't worry about the sidearm you're leaving behind, it will always respawn on your horse if you drop it. Now I'd just like to give a special mention to the LeMat Revolver. Unfortunately, I don't know any freebie methods, but I simply had to give it a shout out anyway, if for no other reason than I know you'd all be on my back if I didn't. I'd love to be able to say that I've found a method of getting one without paying for it, but alas, I have not. The only way I know of is to purchase it from the Saint Denis gunsmith after it unlocks in Chapter 4. If you do know a better method though, please let me know and I'll pin it in the comments if it checks out. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the video today. If you did enjoy it, please hit the like button down below, and if you are new around here, then also consider subscribing as well. I've been covering story mode content in Red Dead Redemption 2 for years now, and I don't have plans of stopping anytime soon. Until we meet again, you bunch of legends, I'm Red Nitrate, and I'll catch you on the next one.